And it is very likely that Mr. President has actually approved even for the settlement of those who will be displaced. The good thing about Mambila, the 3,050 megawatts is a game changer any day. So we are looking forward to Mr. President flagging Mambila off. We are getting ready for that. It will be done in a couple of weeks.
How much money has been spent on Mambila so far, and how much more before it comes on stream? I'm asking this question because in June 2013, you said you put the contract value at about $3.2 billion, while Alhaji Wakil stated in September that it was going to be about $7 billion. I have also heard $5 billion. Which is it?
The actual contract value is about 5.7 billion US dollars. That is the contract value, including tax and VAT. That's what it is.
So with the resettlement scheme, it will be about 7
No, it will get up to close to about 7 billion with the resettlement. But again, one important thing, when you look at that cost, now what you need to do is compare to similar dams all over the world. And you will see that Nigeria is getting much better value for money than you can imagine for most of the hydropower plants in Africa or other parts of the world.
Let's talk about the existing power plants. Apart from Igbi, BP figures show great disparity between the installed and actual capacity of the power stations before privatization in 2013. Sapele, for instance, had an installed capacity of 1,020 megawatts, but producing 50 megawatts. AFAM had a capacity to produce 726 megawatts, but is barely making 60 megawatts. Can you give us an update on the production capabilities of these stations and why there's so much disparity?
The disparity, as I said earlier, is most of these turbines were in a state of disrepair. They hadn't been overhauled for decades.
Like the refineries?
Yes, they hadn't been overhauled. Nobody had worked on them. When you get an equipment and keep it and run it for 30 years and you have not overhauled it, the equipment will get old and pack up on you. So many of this equipment, but look at what happened with privatization now. We invested a substantial amount of money. Within 14 months of taking over the Ebwin power plant, they brought Unit 6 back. Unit 6 has been out of disrepair for over 9 years. Unit 6 actually blew up over 9 years ago, and nobody had ever touched it. So we recovered that, and they now have the capacity to add 220 megawatts to the grid. The good thing for Lagosians now is that they've been saying, let's not give this to the grid completely. Let us settle to give it to Lagosians, so that people in Lagos are going to breathe a sigh of relief eventually as soon as the gas is all available for that. Now think of Ughelli power plant. Before privatization, with all the installed capacity, Ughelli was doing barely 160, 180 megawatts. But the new owners have ramped up Ughelli by overhauling the engines, and now Ughelli can do up to 600 megawatts of power. This is privatization. You know, today, as I speak to you, we can actually do 5,500 megawatts, not installed capacity. Installed capacity is almost 40%, 50% more than that, but available capacity if the gas is there. And the gas can only be there when we take care of this vandalism that is disrupting a lot of the flow of gas. However, the current problem right now nationally, not only that the ELPA gas pipeline was, broken into again about 2 weeks ago, plunging us into darkness in many parts of the country, but other pipelines, the Pan Ocean, the Utorogo, the Oben, we are being, worked on to make sure that we ramped up their capacity to produce more gas. So we are hoping that within the next 2-3 weeks, those repairs should be done. We will have an additional 200 million scoffs of gas that will give us an additional 800 megawatts of power.
I know gas is usually cited as a big problem. The availability of gas, the supply of gas is always being talked about. But apart from pipeline vandalization, one other thing that people talk about is that it will take a higher price for producers to prioritize domestic gas sales over exporting. Is government doing anything to review prices, and what would be the implications of this for consumers?
That's a very good way of looking at it, because we have a lot of gas going for export, no doubt about that. The problem with that is many of this is under contractual agreement. Contracts were signed, and unless we declare force majeure based on maybe a national emergency or something like that.
Is this not a national emergency?
Well, it looks like a national emergency, and one may be forced to if we have no other recourse. So that's one thing. The other thing is, remember that until recently, the price of gas was about 50 cents. Then gradually it rose to $1.50. And it was this administration again that, in order to incentivize producers of gas, because no molecule of gas is produced without being committed and sold in advance. This takes huge amount of money. You have to assure the people you are going to pay for the gas. You sign gas sales agreement. You have enter into a contractual agreement over so many years before you can incentivize them enough to now produce the gas. So when the gas is now produced, we have now put it at the beautiful synergy between myself and my sister, Honorable Minister of Petroleum Resources, Diezane Alison Madueke. We worked a lot, and then involved the central bank governor, the chairman of Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission. All of us worked together to make sure that we had a regime of gas pricing that will incentivize the producers. Now they have no excuse.
I know the producers are saying maybe if you paid about $3, will government be able to do that? And what would be the implications?
There is a difference between real profit, normal profit, and opulent profit. I asked that question at the World Economic Forum. I said, please, could you tell me the difference between regular profit and obscene profit? With $2.50 and 80 cents transportation, they are making good money. So they have an incentive there. It's just for us to make sure that we even develop the other hinterland gas fields, the marginal fields, gas fields, so that much of our gas production will not only be based on the associated gas with the oil, but we also develop other gas fields.
We must take a break now, Honorable Minister. We're going to ask that you please join us again after the break.